Assalamu alaikum and welcome back once again to Today in African History with Baba Shaka. I'm Baba Shaka and today is August 12th, 2021. And it was on this date, back in 1977, that one of our most influential anti-apartheid leaders in South Africa was arrested. Stephen Biko, who was born Bantu Steve Biko on December 18, 1946, was one of South Africa's most significant political activists and a leading founder of South Africa's Black Consciousness movement. His murder and police detention in 1977 led to his being hailed a martyr of the anti-apartheid struggle. Nelson Mandela, South Africa's post-apartheid president who was incarcerated at the notorious Robben Island prison during Brother Biko's time on the world stage, lionized the activist 20 years after he was killed, calling him, quote, the spark that lit a veiled fire across South Africa, unquote. Stephen Bantu Biko was born on December 18, 1946, to a Xhosa family. Now, I know I'm mispronouncing the name Xhosa. There should be a click in there somewhere, like Xhosa or something like that, but I apologize to all the Xhosa-speaking people. His father, Mzagaye Biko, worked as a police officer and later as a clerk in the King Williamstown Native Affairs Office. His father achieved part of a university education through the University of South Africa, which was a distance learning university, but unfortunately he died before completing his law degree. Now, after his father's death, Brother Biko's mother, Xolela Masente Duna, supported the family as a cook at Grace Hospital. Now, from an early age, Brother Steve Biko showed an interest in anti-apartheid politics. After being expelled from his first school, Lovedale College in the Eastern Cape, for quote-unquote anti-establishment behavior, such as speaking out against apartheid and speaking up for the rights of black South African citizens, he was transferred to St. Francis College, which was a Roman Catholic boarding school in Natal. From there, he enrolled as a student at the University of Natal Medical School, but of course, in the university's black section. Can't have the mixing, see. Now, while a medical student, Brother Biko became involved with the National Union of South African Students. The union was dominated by white liberal allies and failed to represent the needs of the black students. So, dissatisfied, Brother Biko resigned in 1969 and founded the South African Students Organization, or SASO. SASO was involved in providing legal aid and medical clinics, as well as helping to develop cottage industries for disadvantaged black communities. Then in 1972, Brother Biko was one of the founders of the Black People's Convention, or the BPC, working on social upliftment projects around Durban. The BPC effectively brought together roughly 70 different black consciousness groups and associations, such as the South African Student Movement, which later played a significant role in the 1976 uprising, the National Association of Youth Organization, and the Black Workers Project, which supported black workers whose unions were not recognized under the apartheid regime. In a book first published posthumously in 1978 titled I Write What I Like, which contained Brother Biko's writings from 1969, when he became the president of the South African Students Organization, to 1972, when he was banned from publishing. Brother Biko explained black consciousness and summed up his own philosophy. Quote, black consciousness is an attitude of the mind and a way of life, the most positive call to emanate from the black world for a long time. Its essence is the realization by the black man of the need to rally together with his brothers around the cause of their oppression, which is the blackness of their skin, and to operate as a group to rid themselves of the shackles that bind them to perpetual servitude, unquote. Brother Biko was elected as the first president of the BPC and was promptly expelled from medical school. He was expelled specifically for his involvement in the BPC. So he started working full-time for the Black Community Program in Durban, which he also helped found. Now, in 1973, Steve Biko was banned by the apartheid government for his writings and speeches denouncing the apartheid system. Under the ban, Brother Biko was restricted to his hometown of Kings Williamstown in the Eastern Cape. So he could no longer support the black community program in Durban, but was able to continue working for the Black People's Convention. Now, during that time, Brother Biko was first visited by Donald Woods, the editor of East London Daily Dispatch, located in the province of Eastern Cape in South Africa. Woods was not initially a fan of our brother, calling the whole black conscious movement racist. As Woods explained in his book, Biko, first published in 1978, quote, I had had up to then a negative attitude towards black consciousness. As one of a tiny band of white South African liberals, I was totally opposed to race as a factor in political thinking and totally committed to non-racist policies and philosophies, unquote. Woods believed initially that black consciousness was nothing more than apartheid in reverse because it advocated that, quote, blacks should go their own way, unquote, and essentially divorced themselves not just from white people, but even from white liberal allies in South Africa who worked to support their cause. But Woods eventually saw that he was incorrect about Brother Biko's thinking. Brother Biko believed that black people needed to embrace their own identity, hence the term black consciousness, and, quote, set our own table, unquote. In the brother's words, later, however, white people could figuratively join them at the table once black South Africans had established their own sense of identity. Woods eventually came to see that black consciousness, quote, expresses group pride and the determination by all blacks to rise and attain the self-efficacious self, right? And that black groups were becoming more conscious of the self. They were beginning to rid their minds of the imprisoning notions which are the legacy of the control of their attitudes by whites, unquote. Woods went on to champion Brother Biko's cause and became his friend. Quote, it was a friendship that ultimately forced Mr. Woods into exile, unquote. That was a quote from the New York Times, which noted that when Woods died in 2001, but Woods was not expelled from South Africa because of his friendship with Biko per se. Woods' exile was a result of the government's intolerance of the friendship and support of anti-apartheid ideals sparked by a meeting Woods arranged with a top South African official. See, Woods met with South African Minister of Police James Jimmy Kruger to request the easing of Brother Biko's banning order, a request that was promptly ignored and led to further harassment and arrest of Brother Biko, as well as a harassment campaign against Woods himself that eventually caused him to flee the country. Despite the harassment, Brother Biko from King Williamstown helped set up the Xolela Trust Fund, which assisted political prisoners and their families. He was also elected honorary president of the BPC in January of 1977. Brother Biko was detained and interrogated 4 times between August 1975 and September 1977 under apartheid-era anti-terrorism legislation. On August 21st, 1977, Brother Biko was detained again by the Eastern Cape Security Police and held in Port Elizabeth. From the Walmer police cells, he was taken for interrogation at the Security Police Headquarters. Now, according to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of South Africa, the report on September 7th, 1977, it says, quote, Biko sustained a head injury during interrogation, after which he acted strangely and was uncooperative. The doctors who examined him, naked, lying on a mat and shackled to a metal grill, initially disregarded overt signs of neurological injury, unquote. By September 11, Brother Biko had slipped into a continual semi-conscious state, and the police physician recommended a transfer to the hospital. Brother Biko was, however, transported nearly 750 miles to Pretoria, a 12-hour journey which he made lying naked in the back of a Land Rover. A few hours later, on September 12th, alone and still naked, lying on the floor of a cell in the Pretoria Central Prison, Brother Biko died from brain damage. South African Minister of Justice, or rather, South African Minister of Injustice, Kruger, initially suggested that Brother Biko had died of a hunger strike and said that his murder, quote-unquote, left him cold. I'm sure it did. The hunger strike story was dropped after local and international media pressure, especially from Woods. It was revealed in the inquest that Brother Biko had died from brain damage, but the magistrate failed to find anyone responsible. He ruled that our brother had died as a result of injuries sustained during a scuffle with security police while in detention. The brutal circumstances of Steve Biko's murder caused a worldwide outcry, and he became a martyr and symbol of black resistance to the oppressive apartheid regime. As a result, the South African government banned a number of individuals, including Woods, and organizations, especially those black consciousness groups closely associated with Steve Biko. The United Nations Security Council responded by imposing an arms embargo against South Africa. Brother Biko's family sued the state for damages in 1979 and settled out of court for 65,000 rand, which at that time was equivalent to 25,000 US dollars. The three doctors connected with Steve Biko's case were initially exonerated by the South African Medical Disciplinary Committee. It was not until a second inquiry in 1985, 8 years after the brothers' murder, that any action was taken against them. At that time, Dr. Benjamin Tucker, who examined Brother Biko before his murder, lost his license to practice in South Africa. The police officers responsible for Steve's killing applied for amnesty during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission hearings, which sat in Port Elizabeth in 1997, but the application was denied. The commission had a very specific purpose. Let me read that to you. Quote, "The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was created to investigate gross human rights violations that were perpetrated during the period of the apartheid regime from 1960 to 1994, including abductions, killings, and torture. Its mandate covers both violations by both the state and the liberation movement and allowed the commission to hold special hearings focused on specific sectors, institutions, and individuals. Controversially, the TRC, as it was called, was empowered to grant amnesty to perpetrators who confessed their crimes truthfully and completely to the commission." I did not support that commission, but then again, who am I? The commission was comprised of 17 commissioners, 9 men and 8 women. Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu chaired the commission. The commissioners were supported by approximately 300 staff members divided into 3 committees: Human Rights Violation Committee, Amnesty Committee, and the Reparations and Rehabilitation Committee. Unquote. Steve Biko's family did not ask the commission to make a finding on his murder. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of South Africa report, published by Macmillan in March 1999, said of Brother Biko's murder, quote, "The commission finds that the death in detention of Mr. Stephen Bantu Biko on the 12th of September 1977 was a gross human rights violation. Magistrate Martinus Prince found that the members of the SAP, or the South African Police, were not implicated in his death. The magistrate's finding contributed to the creation of a culture of impunity in the SAP. Despite the inquest finding no persons responsible for his death, the commission finds that in view of the fact that Brother Biko died in the custody of law enforcement officials, the probabilities are that he died as a result of injuries sustained during his detention," unquote. Of course, that's what happened. And as you notice, that culture of impunity that existed in the South African police still exists over here in the police all around the United States. Now, Woods went on to write a biography of Steve Biko, published in 1978, simply titled Biko. In 1987, Brother Biko's story was chronicled in the film Cry Freedom, which was based on Wood's book and starring Denzel Washington as Steve Biko. The hit song Biko by Peter Gabriel, honoring Steve Biko's legacy, came out in 1980. Now, please note, Woods, Sir Richard Attenborough, who's the director of Cry Freedom, and Peter Gabriel, all white men, have had perhaps the most influence and control in the widespread telling of Brother Biko's story, and have also profited from it. This is an important point to consider as we reflect on his legacy, which remains notably small when compared to more famous anti-apartheid leaders such as Baba Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Tutu. But Steve Biko remains a model and hero in the struggle for autonomy and self-determination for people around the world. His writings, work, and tragic murder were all historically crucial to the momentum and success of the anti-apartheid movement. In 1997, at the 20th anniversary of Brother Biko's murder, then South African President Nelson Mandela memorialized our brother, calling him, quote, a proud representative of the reawakening of a people, unquote, and added, quote, history called upon Steve Biko at a time when the political pulse of our people had been rendered faint by banning, imprisonment, exile, murder, and banishment. While Steve Biko espoused, inspired, and promoted black pride, he never made blackness a fetish. At the end of the day, as he himself pointed out, accepting one's blackness is a critical starting point, an important foundation for engaging in struggle, unquote. I will, inshallah, list a number of books that I recommend that I am confident will give you a much deeper understanding of Brother Steve Biko, his philosophy, and his life. For those of you who have not seen the movie Cried Freedom, starring Denzel Washington, I highly recommend that you see it if you can find it. You will not be disappointed. Also, keep in mind that when the UN imposed an armed embargo against the apartheid regime in South Africa, the Israeli government was not in support of that. According to Moshe Dayan, and this comes from the Washington Post, according to Moshe Dayan, the then foreign minister of Israel, said Israel, quote, will not abandon South Africa because of President Carter's position supporting the arms embargo, unquote. Then later, Dayan told a group of visiting American university professors that, quote, it is not the business of the President of the United States whom we have for friends as long as we are within the limits of the law, unquote. Just let that sink in for a minute. A mighty big thank you to all of our subscribers who continue to support our efforts here today in African history. To those of you who have not yet subscribed, please take this time to hit that subscribe button just below there and lend us your much needed support. Please like and leave a comment down in the comment section below. But most importantly, please share, especially with the young amongst us, because as you and I both know, this material is not taught in our schools. So, until tomorrow, inshallah, this is Baba Shaka with Today in African History. Masala.